Hello, this is Lawrence R. Harvey, and you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com. Although how you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com without your head, I simply don't know.
Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I am Nasty Neil.
This is Annabelle Lecter.
Yes, and things are running smoothly here. And on the line with us, we have writers, director Stephen Kostanski.
Hi, Nasty Neil.
How you doing? And Jeremy Gillespie.
Hello.
Hello. And you guys might know them from Astron-6. And basically, I could just say what they say on their video over on the campaign for the Void.
Indiegogo, check Void. I found that there's a couple Void things, so if you look up the Void horror, you'll find it.
Mm-hmm. And if people do know you from Astron-6, and you guys are, very comedic in your films, and The Void seems very serious. Now, why did you guys decide to do like a serious horror sci-fi film?
We're fans of that kind of stuff, and we've been sort of making comedy horror things for, I don't know, like 10 years at this point, so we thought it might be fun to try something new. And yeah, we spent enough time talking about making a legitimate horror movie. We thought it was time to actually try and dive into one. So that's where The Void came out. And we have done some like less comedic things over the years. Even if you look through the Astron-6 stuff, there's some not so funny movies.
Looking at your little preview that you've got on Indiegogo, it looks absolutely brilliant. How confident do you feel getting into this that it's just going to nail it? Because it is a departure from what you've done recently. What do you think you're going to deliver to fans they might not be getting in the horror world otherwise?
Go for it, Jer. Well, I would say we are pretty confident that we've got something good. We've been working on it for a couple of years, sort of here and there. So it's been a long time in the making, and I think it's like a atmospheric kind of surreal, creature effects horror movie, which I think it's really like a good culmination of everything we like about horror movies, kind of crammed into one movie. So, I mean, you got creatures, like Jer said, you got creatures and atmosphere, all sorts of, different horror tropes that people like, but I think with our own kind of creative spin on it. So I think there's going to be lots for people to sink their teeth into.
Mm-hmm. I think that's always prevalent in your other work, is that you guys can, as a fan, you can really see the love in the movie and, things that you've grown up watching. All put into it.
Yeah, exactly. We're always rooted in kind of the things that we grew up on, and it's like all our movies are sort of based on our own experiences from watching movies, and I think a lot of that kind of like passion bleeds into the work itself. So
you set yourself a really high bar to kind of put it out there for the level of creatures you're working on. Like you listed The Fly, 1988 Blob. You mentioned The Thing, Silent Hill, which I know, Steve, you worked on the Silent Hill film, and H.R. Geiger. I mean, I saw the little work you had on Indiegogo, and it really does look beautiful. What can you say to people about those inspirations and where that will potentially go in the film?
Well, I think beyond just the design of the creatures themselves, like, it's also a way of filming these creatures that I think has been kind of lost in the past 20 years of filmmaking, with the advent of CG and just HD and different styles of filming. Nobody does atmospheric creature stuff anymore. It's like everything's kind of played either in a silly comedy horror fashion, or it's something that's all CG that isn't quite as convincing. I'm sure you guys have seen the remake of The Thing, which is not even remotely as effective. So I feel like, aside from just the design of the creatures themselves, really it's how they're presented that's the most important part. I think that's kind of bringing it back to
a more like 70s and 80s fashion of shooting that I think we haven't seen since then. So that's the important thing that we're bringing to the table.
Yeah, and that's kind of the foundation of our whole sort of crowdfunding thing, is that we're not asking for money to make the movie. We're asking for money so that we can have prep time to create the creatures, 3 months ahead of time, so that they're ready for the movie.
So you can give best of the best, because that's something, watching it, that's exactly what's going to, well, I mean, there's a lot going on for the film, but so many people feel the same way. I feel like there's really been a revolution in the horror community lately with so many independent films. Really, you hear now practical effects, it's a big sell, because people don't want the CG anymore. They know what looks good and what doesn't look good. How do you feel about the revolution part of horror? Do you feel like this is really starting to gain ground through independent work?
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely say that. I think there's room for everything. Like, I'm not, totally against CG myself. I think if it's done right, it can work. I think sort of the best is amalgamating the two usually. If you do it right, I think you can get really good results.
Yeah, it's really just another tool, and I think, recent filmmakers have kind of mishandled it to a certain extent with things like the remake of The Thing, where they're not using it as a tool, it's more of a crutch. So with our movie, we kind of want to, get back to the basics and bring things back to the way they used to be. And I think there is definitely a demand for that in the horror audience these days, because, I mean, I don't know, I'm not seeing a lot of creature features out there anymore. It's not really, I think there's a demand for it, but then nobody's really delivering on it.
Yeah. You also brought up HD, not just CG. Do you think, because I always thought some of the older movies, when they put them out on Blu-ray and then they put them in HD, you can not all of them, but it ruins some of them, because then you can see things that maybe they intentionally were not trying to show you in the movie, trying to cover up with the different atmosphere and the fog and the darkness. And do you think that's a reason why you haven't seen a lot of practical effects creature movies in modern days?
Yeah, well, I think, again, it just goes back to the way things are being shot now. Like, it's more about capturing the information and doing it in post. Everything these days is about designing and making all these effects after the fact, as opposed to building them beforehand, and then everything's there, like, on the day. Like, now they just show up with, like, a tennis ball on a stick, and it's like, we'll put a thing in later. And so that all kind of factors into, like, shooting in 4K, HD, all this stuff. Like, that's just the style of filmmaking, and it's not really conducive to that style of creature movie.
Mm.
Yeah, I think the world of, like, color timing and stuff is also sort of affected that, because things are shot sort of as bright as possible so they can be taken down later during color timing. And I think it all just comes down to how you shoot it. I mean, if you watch Alien in HD, I mean, it still looks incredible. You're not seeing anything that they weren't intending you to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it depends on the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is the script is it complete?
Yeah.
And so, does that, obviously the funding affects that, but like, if you would, could it affect it positively? Like, if you got more than what you're hoping for, you could add more to the script, or is it just more creatures, or how would that work?
Well, you can never have money and time and resources for this stuff.
Yeah. It'd probably just mean we'd have to call in slightly less favors from people, because, I mean, we've got a lot of people, like, ready to jump on board and start building monsters for this, and the more money we get, the more time I can give them, and the more, hopefully I'll be able to make it worth their while.
Yeah, like, we both work in film for our day jobs, and we both understand that, people are trying to make a living doing this stuff, so the more we can pay people, the happier we are and they are, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think the impact is for your actors to be able to work in an environment where they're not talking to, like you mentioned, a tennis ball?
I think that I think it just helps everybody. It's like having something on set that you can react to and you can plan your lighting around.
Sure, and interact with.
All of that just adds to what you're getting on the day, I think, and especially for actors, it gives them something to play off of. Because, I mean, nobody wants to be, I don't think any actor wants to be stuck in just a total green screen room all day, being told, like, oh yeah, there's some really impressive thing standing across from you. Look amazed. Like, just you want it there with you.
If you have a viewer watching, then they're gonna get some kind of hopefully feeling of how you would be relating to the experience of making the film. So if you're more enthusiastic because of the style you're filming in, do you think that translates to the audience?
Well, I think on a very basic nostalgia level, it certainly helps because I mean, this is the way movies used to be made up until the mid '90s. I think it certainly translates into a different kind of experience for the audience. So yeah, I think it would have an effect on them.
Yeah, I think the more enthusiastic somebody is about a project, the harder they work, and certainly I think that shines through. I would hope so.
Now, how does co-directing and co-writing work? You know, do you guys ever butt heads, or do you find it what's easier and what's harder about working together as opposed to writing something yourself or directing something yourself?
Well, the whole idea is really like a melding of Steve and I's interests, and I think we stop each other when we go too far down one direction that maybe isn't working, so we're able to reel each other in and sort of, filter out the best of the stuff that we're doing.
Yeah, it's certainly been a good learning experience for both of us because I think it brought us kind of where our strengths and weaknesses are and how we complement each other. So it's worked out really well, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I do have to ask this: just how awesome is Adam Brooks?
How awesome?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty cool, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right. That's pretty cool. I'm a big fan. But speaking, Annabelle brought up green screen movies. I'm a big fan of Manborg, and like you said earlier about putting all different things in the void. There's so many different things that went into Manborg, and I just the whole time I'm watching, I just have a big smile on my face. And
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie. I reviewed on podcast before, and I just want to ask who did the stop motion, and what was how fun was that, and how tedious was that to do stop motion?
I did all the stop motion, and it was very tedious, but I don't know, it was a lot of fun because I just had to kind of cobble things together, frantically and kind of on the spot. So yeah, I don't know. It really just felt like I was playing with action figures the whole time. In some cases, it actually was. I used a few action figures that I kind of kit bashed and made characters out of. Oh, but I don't know. It was just kind of like a fun bit of creativity for me, just to sit in a corner and mash toys around in front of a green screen.
Yeah. Speaking of action figures, will we see Zorb action figures? I think there's one out there, but will we see more from that world?
We would like to have more, but I mean, we're so swamped with the Void and everything right now.
Yeah.
It might be a ways off.
Yeah, it's funny. The whole Zorb thing actually began as an idea for a line of toys that we were going to make, and then create something out of that after. It just sort of worked out that the movie came first.
Mm-hmm.
How did you guys meet?
We're from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and my girlfriend and I ran a horror movie film festival every Halloween there. And Steve would enter every year and win first place. And so that's how we met sort of all the Astron guys. Everybody was, we noticed the strongest stuff was being submitted by the same people every year. And so we just sort of joined forces, and then it happened, I think, 4 years ago. Steve and I both moved to Toronto around the same time, and so we just kept working from there.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
Now, I know Graham Humphrey's posters were in the editor, which we also love the editor. How did you guys hook up with Graham Humphrey's? Because his poster, by the way, for The Void is great.
Yeah, it is great. Our producer, I think, contacted him, and yeah, we love it. I've been saying that it's like the cover of the movie if Fulci directed The Void, which is like amazing to me.
Yeah. And well, what happened with the fake posters that he did that were shown in the editor? Did you guys get any copies of those?
I haven't gotten anything out of that movie.
No. That's the more Matt and Adam's thing, and I assume they still have them.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You don't have to apologize.
No, I'm very well. I'm very sad for you guys that you didn't get it.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Yeah.
Now, what was it like working for Lloyd Kaufman for Father's Day? Or with Lloyd Kaufman, however that worked. I don't know.
It was an experience, all right.
Yeah, I mean, Lloyd Kaufman and Troma weren't really involved in the making of the movie particularly.
Mm-hmm.
Like Lloyd showed up for his cameo, and I don't know, what was that, 1 or 2 days? And he was.
Was that part of the contest that he had to be in it, or
part of the what?
I think that was just a conceptual decision early on to throw him in the movie somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if you got him.
Yeah, he got him, flaunt him.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, he was a nice guy to deal with there, and I spent like 3 days in Brussels with him when Father's Day played at Biff, and he's a very nice guy to hang out with. I would say, sort of releasing the movie with Troma is maybe they do things differently than we would have liked. I don't really know what more to say than that.
Yeah, he was very nice to us on set, and that was the full extent of my interaction with him.
Yeah. Overall, though, would you say that was positive or negative to have Father's Day released by Troma?
Well,
it was a good learning experience.
Yeah, and if it weren't for Troma, it would never have been made. So it's hard to say it was a negative thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just got to dive into it, regardless of what your gut might tell you is a good idea or not. And so, yeah, I think overall it was just we learned a lot from that movie.
Yeah, for sure, and we're proud of it. I mean, we still like the movie. So.
I'm a huge fan of it. Annabelle brought up some of the movies that you mentioned in The Void, some creature movies, The Fly, Blob, John Carpenter's A Thing. And actually, all those themselves are remakes. So I was just wondering what you guys' thoughts were on remakes in general.
I think since a lot of those they're all remakes, but again, they were done at a time when movies were still being made, kind of in that fashion. So I think they're excellent. As far as remakes recently, aren't really any that stand out as being particularly memorable to me.
Yeah, I've worked on a couple, and I don't know. There's good elements to them. I think I worked on the Total Recall remake, and I wouldn't argue that it's a great movie, but I would say visually, I think there's some good stuff in it. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I think it could be done well. I think a lot of sort of bigger budget movies don't really work, and whether they're remakes or not. So it's hard to say. It's kind of like a case-by-case basis, I think.
Okay, you'd mentioned Total Recall and your work in that, you might not necessarily love the movie, but it's your work, and you can be proud of that work. Mm-hmm. What are some points of pride in your respective careers in terms of the art you've produced?
Well, I mean, just having a career, I'm pretty proud of. Like,
yeah, that really is the hardest part. It's just getting work in film. Yeah,
like it is an achievement in itself. I don't know. I'm proud of. Like, I could point out something in every movie I've worked on that I'm proud of. Pacific Rim was a big one. Like, just getting to work on a movie with giant monsters, like, I couldn't believe that I was getting paid to do that. It was a totally surreal experience, and I don't know. Yeah, that was amazing.
That's the most beautiful film I've ever walked out on.
yeah. It's like, I wouldn't argue that it's a perfect movie, but the things that it intended to deliver on, I think it delivered on. So
yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah, totally.
Neil and I to go review it, and that's what kept me in the seat as long as I'm even really big on robots and that kind of film. But it is so incredible to watch. It's so visual, and that's what kept me.
And Hannibal Chow is a very short
I saw it in IMAX, and it was pretty unreal.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those movies I wish I was like 10 or 11 when I went to go see it, because I probably would have blown my mind.
That's
somebody at that age.
I do want to say that
if, like, a few years down the line, that would be like a huge cult movie to people who were young when they saw it.
I would say that's one movie in the special effects of the FX. There's that's done well because you actually feel like there's weight involved, and I always think that's a big problem in CGI that's not done well. Is you don't feel the weight. You can tell it's not there.
Yeah, you get the crappy SpiderMan marionette effect.
Yes.
Yeah, we spent some time with the animation supervisor from that movie at ILM, and he was like the nicest guy ever, and they really worked hard to convey like all of the weight, because I think it was all like sort of not hand animated, but like animated from scratch. They wasn't like motion capture, and I think that comes through. That's an example of a movie you could never do that, or you could never accomplish it with practical effects. Like
yeah. I do want to ask a question about Fantasy Man from W's Wish and ABC's of Death 2, which is awesome. And when Fantasy Man is calling the boy princess, like, it's creepy, but it's not like over the top creepy. And was there like any concern that it would be too uncomfortable when he's calling the boy princess? Because I think it's just the perfect level of creepiness, which I enjoy.
I think that was the whole intention, was to start the short as big and like bombastic as possible, and then scale it down to that kind of level of creep that's like it's a little more ambiguous. And yeah, I think it works. It was always our intention to have it end in that sort of fashion.
Mm-hmm.
There was a moment on set when Steve and I kind of looked at each other, and we had this poor kid like chained up against a wall, and we're just like, "What are we doing?"
Do you feel like some of those "what are we doing" moments can end up being? Yeah.
Oh, totally. Those are always the best moments.
Yeah, I mean,
go
ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the jacket moment in Father's Day, I think, is like the culmination of that. What is this stupid shit we're doing? It ends up being our favorite moment.
The idea that Ahab's jacket talks to him just came out of like pure like delirious sleep deprivation, and it's like, to me, it's great.
Yeah. Has either one of you guys ever came up with an idea and the other one just like looked at him and was like, no?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah, constantly shutting each other down.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's also a bonus of working together? Because you can bounce ideas off each other, but you can also, maybe that idea is not going to fly.
Yeah, I think there's like a level of
pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Definitely in the moment after pitching the idea that gets shut down, you want to be like, fuck you. But you appreciate it after the fact.
Yeah. Is there ever a particular thing in any of your work that you just didn't think would work, one of you didn't think would work, but like really plays well with the audience?
I'm always operating under the assumption that nothing is working, so I'm happy when I get any kind of positive response.
Yeah, it's like
when you've got like a shitty puppet on set or a polyfoam and latex Fungor guy walking around, you're always confronted with the notion that maybe this just isn't working. So I've just come to accept that that's the reality of filmmaking.
Now, on the crowdfunding campaign for The Void, now, how do you go about doing your trailer? Because you obviously want to let people know what they're going to give money to help see get made, but also you don't want to give away too much of the movie and give away everything. So is that how hard is it to balance that?
Well, the trailer was made, almost a year and a half, 2 years ago at this point.
It was 2012, fall 2012 we started it.
Yeah, and it was actually made, we were pitching it at a film market, and its intention was to find producers and financing. And so I guess we just kind of wanted to show sort of the highlights of what it would be and sort of get people interested.
Well, and set the tone for it, because I think stuff like a synopsis on a page doesn't really give you any sense of atmosphere or anything. So it's good to have a minute and a half that just kind of punches you in the face with what this movie's going to be.
Yeah, because we've seen, and we won't name names because people we like, but we've seen some campaigns where it's someone just kind of sitting there and telling you what it'll be, and that's really hard to sell because, it depends on your delivery and whatnot, but if you actually, visually see different things, it adds so much more.
Yeah, totally.
And there was a video where you guys put up with how you did the cult, which I thought was amazing.
That's the kind of low-budget shit that we seem to excel at for some reason. So, and inevitably, these shots always end up just being me in some kind of stupid wardrobe running around looking like a fool. So I thought it'd be good to put that up and trust that to people.
I think Steve actually fell asleep standing up doing that at one point too.
Yeah, there was one of those times where I just kind of zoned out and went to another place.
Talking about sleep deprivation. What do you have to do to get through this stuff? What gets through it? Obviously, you want to make your moves, but it's just so much.
I think you just have to come to terms with no sleep.
Yeah, make friends with some really hard drugs and push forward.
Yeah, I had that part down, but I need to really push forward.
Stay away from
you're kind of rolling the dice.
Any downers, stay away from, because that's just going to put you to sleep. You want your amphetamines. Speed is, always a popular one.
Now, we had talked about, The Void being a creature film, but it also has the cult element. So, how much of The Void is about the cult, and how much is about the creatures, or is it just, a good combination?
Well, I think it's all kind of woven into the same story. I don't know if I'd call it a cult, narrative necessarily, but they are definitely an element that weaves in with where the monsters are coming from and how this whole thing comes about. I don't want to give too much away, but I think it's all integrated pretty nicely.
I like
going into the not giving too much away. How do you know how far to go where you'll captivate these potential funders but not ruin it?
Well, that's definitely been, that's definitely been the learning experience for us, because, we've never done this kind of crowdfunding before, to try to figure out how far to go and what to hold back on. We've just been kind of figuring it out as we go. Jer and I the whole time have been strong advocates of showing as little as humanly possible, but we realized that you got to give people something, otherwise they're going to think you're just full of shit. So it's been a struggle trying to figure out how much we should release.
Yeah, we're really just sort of trying to give sort of the sense of what it is rather than showing the specifics of what it is.
Yes, if it's almost impossible, but if you could go into a movie totally cold and not know anything about it and be surprised by everything about it, it would be the best way. But obviously that's not really something that's feasible to do.
I try and do that as much as possible with movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my favorite movie of the last year was Whiplash, and I went into it totally cold. And
yeah, same. I think we both had the same experience where we got, like, kicked in the face by this movie that we thought was, like, just about jazz drumming.
Yeah.
All I knew was that there was, like, drumming in it, and so it was the perfect way to go into that movie and just, like, take the ride with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, honestly, when I saw Father's Day, it was similar because people had recommended it to me. One of them actually being Lawrence R. Harvey, from name drop from
Human nice.
Yeah, from editor in Human Centipede 2. And so I didn't know really what it was about. And I like Manborg. I just sat there with a big smile on my face for different reasons, but it was very enjoyable. Some of the
Not
best.
as much penis mutilation in Manborg.
Yeah, I love the dialogue in Father's Day. Really had me happy. I'm a big fan of man-on-man rape humor.
Cool.
And that's something I wanted to ask about. Is how far is too far? When you put a line and say this is just not, we just can't do this.
Well, I think Jeremy and I have different tolerance levels. Like, I'm definitely I'm rooted in more, like, juvenile entertainment or, like, kid-based stuff. So even for Father's Day, when we started getting into, like, the heavy rape stuff, I was a little like, is this going to work? But I feel like that also, like, kind of works together because you have, like, the thing kind of pitches back and forth between being really intense and then really childish. I think that's what kind of makes it that roller coaster.
Yeah, and I don't think either of us have any interest in, like, being, like, provocateurs or whatever, just, like, pushing limits to push limits. Like, it's like, the reason that Father's Day worked to me is because it's kind of taking the, like, trope of the woman in peril, but, like, flipping it so now middle-aged men are actually the ones in danger. Like, to me, that's something worth doing, but if there were nothing behind it, then I wouldn't have much interest.
Have you had any negative feedback about your style of humor where people are just mortified and...
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Oh, yeah, people definitely call us misogynist, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, that sucks. But we've had, like, death threats from people. Specifically, I think, like, years ago, around when Heath Ledger passed away, we had made a Dark Knight video where the Joker ODs, and people thought we were making fun of Heath Ledger ODing, and so, yeah, we got, like, death threats and people calling us monsters and whatever, which, I don't know.
It's bad times.
Do you find that people feel that way? Do you just take it and go, whatever?
Well, it's the internet. I mean, like, it's the worst of the worst. So you have to.
The internet is the Wild
West.
So
even if you do something good, you're going to get somebody, saying it sucks. So there's no escaping it.
That's very different. Does that have any impact on the things you may or may not do? Because there's, like, crackpots out there who actually are scary. Some people make threats and it's bullshit, but there's crazy people out there.
You're asking that people are going to imitate what we make?
No, more people that would be pissed off that you guys are joking around about things that are normally considered sensitive topics, like rape, or, like,
it doesn't take much to piss people off on the internet. I mean, I don't think that really affects what we do or don't do.
You just gotta ignore it and keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, recently someone complained to me that the interviews are done over the phone and that we don't drive to the people every week.
Yeah, why aren't you driving up here?
Yeah, last week we were going to drive to Germany, but it just didn't work out.
Probably for the best.
We're not trying hard enough.
I do want to mention it's igg.me/@/the void.
Yeah, forward slashes, but yeah.
Oh, forward slashes. Yeah, I'm dyslexic with the slashes, but
That's it. Yeah, that's okay.
that's alright. Yeah, but I'll put up the link so people like me can just click on it, and it'll be like magic, and you can go there. And there's a lot of very cool things you can get for donating.
Yeah, I think we're offering some pretty cool stuff, I hope, and there's lots of opportunities to be involved, like in the movie itself too. So,
would you like to highlight some of those things that people might that might grab some people's attention?
Well, we have a thing that's like in every level, even starting at $10, where you can submit art or writing. And we'll try and sort of weave it into a prop in the movie. I think that's pretty cool. And then there's like, you can get thank yous. You can appear in the movie. You can
you can play some of the creatures in the movie potentially, or one of the like disciple cult guys in the robes. So lots of opportunities to be directly involved.
We'll name a character after you. There's amazing posters by, you mentioned Graham Humphreys. There's also Justin Erickson and Gary Pullen did super, super good posters that we're really excited about.
Oh, very cool.
We're also shooting new BioCop content for any fans of BioCop out there. So for, I believe, is it $35? You get, it's like a personalized message from BioCop plus what essentially will become little like shorts, little BioCop adventures that are exclusive to the perk. So that's a pretty good one too.
And any Astron-6 fans or just fans of music, you can get some soundtrack music from a bunch of different things, including Father's Day and Manborg and BioCop and the editor and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Where would people have to travel to if they were going to be in the film?
Well, we haven't 100% locked our location yet, but I imagine it would be somewhere in Ontario, Canada.
Mm-hmm. And I think, if I'm correct, most of them include like hotel and flight. So
that's pretty sweet. That's a really good deal.
Yeah, you should.
That people, if people wouldn't have to go through the process of paying for their travel expenses.
I just want you guys to know that I'm actually going to paint a triangle on my my hooded white sheet for my next rally.
Okay.
Perfect.
Very cool. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's been
absolutely
excellent. And hopefully we'll talk to you again sometime.
Sounds good.
I'm sure you would like to relive this experience of doing this interview.
Definitely.
I hope it goes just as smooth next time.
Exactly. Really?
Definitely get this post. If you have other projects, whatever, you are definitely welcome back to talk about any of those things.
Sweet, thanks.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I really am a big fan of your work. I don't just say that to everybody.
Thanks, man.
You're really
nice of you to say.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So if you're aware, that's actually how we'd put up a video review of ABC's of Death 2 on YouTube, and Peter had saw it and commented and thanked it's like for the great praise of W's for Wish, and then it just kind of went from there to get you guys on the show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
cool.
That's very cool.
That's without a doubt.
Check out that interview.
Yeah, it's our dinner and a movie review of ABC's of Death 2.
Nice.
I got your website bookmarked now, so I'll check it out.
Excellent, thank you.
But it was awesome. It's something like you mentioned in childhood. You just watch it and think He-Man and.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I still play with my He-Man. So.
But.
Awesome.
Yes, it's very awesome. But
this is Benny Chapman, the creature from the Black Lagoon. WithoutYourHead.com.